Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Grounded. My name is Brian Boyd. Today's topic is the temptation of leadership. If you've been tuning in to Grounded for a while, I would love to welcome you back and thank you for your continued support. But if you happen to be a new time listener, I would love to welcome you into the community, and hopefully this episode will inspire you to check out some of the content from before and the content that's coming. But with that being said, let's talk about the temptation of leadership. And this is an episode that I had no intention of recording at the time that I am, but it's something that came up and it's something that's passionate that I feel about. And of course, with anything dealing with temptation, is going to be a deep discussion. So why not have that conversation now and bring you all into the thought process of this? Of course, with that in mind, this is a very unscripted episode. It's a very raw episode in its entirety. So, I may go a little hard at times. I may stray away from the topic, but if y'all bear with me, I guarantee you gonna get something out of this, God willing. But as I said before, this is the temptation of leadership. And the reality of it is that no matter what form of life you may be in, no matter what status or position, no matter how many people you may have under you, if that's 1 or 10 or even 100, you're always going to be faced with temptation in some way, shape, or form. There's no escape from any of that, because the reality of it is that at any given point in time, there's always a better thing that you could be doing, and there's always something worse that you can be doing. And the thing about us, even on an individual level, is that we have to choose the right thing as much as possible. Now, I understand there will be times where we're not going to always do the right thing. There are going to be times where we're going to make decisions that we probably shouldn't have made. But even in those times, we have to make sure that the decisions that we do make, even if they're not the best decision, that there's not anything that's going to derail us from achieving the things that we're after. The reality of that is that there have been many times where people have made those decisions, and that has led to many of the problems that we have today. There have been things that we've seen entire kingdoms fall because of murder and adultery. There have been things we've seen whole countries be in peril because of deception and treason. There have been times where we've even had Fortune 500 companies and organizations fall because of money laundering and things that they should not have been doing. And all of this is from the temptation of leadership, from people giving in to power and money and influence. These are the things that lead people to fall. And understanding that, especially in the temptation of leadership, is understanding that you cannot give into those things. You have to be strong enough, and you have to understand why you're doing the things that you're doing in the first place, so that you can bear the temptation that you're going up against, so that you can bear the pressure that you're under. And that's why understanding the purpose of leadership, understanding why you're doing this stuff to start with, is so critical, because it's during those times where you're faced with those decisions, where it's during those times where you want to compromise on your values, that you go back to that why and you stay strong, because you remember why you're doing it. You remember what you have to gain. And then on the opposite end, you remember everything that you have to lose. You understand. By understanding that type of temptation, by understanding your own personal struggles, you're able to deal with things in a more effective manner than you were. And even the biblical implication about this, I'm going to give you James chapter 4, verse 7 to show you how to avoid these situations. And it basically says, in the words of James, that submit yourselves to God and resist the devil, and he will flee from you. The spiritual understanding of this particular verse is that in life, the reason why we may go through the things that we go through, whether that's fights or envy or spite or things of that nature, or even in the sense of temptation, comes from the devil. Those are things that we are faced with that we may have an inclination to achieve, but we're being enticed to go after those things. And that's exactly what's happening even in James chapter 4, because he's talking to his fellow believers and he's telling them and asking them why they fighting the way they're fighting. Why are they so caught up on what somebody else is doing? And basically, he's saying that the reason why they're doing these things, the reason why there's so much fighting and strife, and the reason why people are starting to go in their own way and, cause discord among their group, is because they envy the other person and the things that they have. And this is where temptation is born from. This is where the pressure is born from, because while we may be effective in the positions that we're in, while we may be impactful to the people around us, there are still things out there that we're going to be enticed to follow. As I mentioned before, whether that's power, whether that's influence, or whether that's money. And even in some cases, that could be, somebody that you're attracted to. You may get involved with somebody that you shouldn't be involved with. And that in itself will pull you somewhere where you don't need to be. But regardless of the means, the end goal is still the same. You're still being tempted. You're still being removed from something that you have no business around. And that's exactly what James is telling them. He's getting to the root of the issue. And the root is simply because they desire what other people have. They desire to be in the place that that other person is in, whether that person has more than them or that person's in a higher position than them. This is the things that get people to go off of the path that they're on as leaders. And that's why I said so far and so many times throughout this episode that temptation is so dangerous, because you have to be able to understand what the thing is, why you're actually after that thing, and then also how to avoid it. And James even goes as far as to say that the reason why they don't have the stuff that they're asking for is simply because they haven't asked God for the stuff. The reason why they don't get it after they ask God for the stuff is because when they do get it, they don't have the right intentions. And when it comes to you understanding, even in the terms of temptation, you got to understand why you even want the stuff that you want. Because as I mentioned before, that goes back even to episode 2 of this series titled The Purpose of Leadership. You got to understand why you're in leadership. You got to understand why you want this stuff. And these are things that will actually help you further your goals. And these are things that will help you further your means. Then God has no problem providing those things for you. But you have to be in a place to understand your true intentions behind it. Because for me, for instance, if I want a car or if I want an excess of money, then that stuff has to be tied to what I'm doing it for. I can't just want extra money or a new car just for the sake of having a car. I can't want and desire more influence over something just because I want more influence. There has to be a deeper goal. There has to be something that will not only benefit myself, but it will benefit the other people. That goes back to what people used to say in the church. I want the Lord to bless me so that I can bless others. And that's where these things come from. That's how you overcome temptation. I mean, just simple as that. You overcome it by realizing what you want. You got to realize that you want things with the right intentions. And if you want and ask for God for those things with the right intentions, then he will be more than happy to give those things to you if it's going to further your vision. Now, the opposite side of that is understanding that if it doesn't line up, then you won't receive those things. And that's exactly what James is saying here. The reason why you don't have these things, even when you ask God, is because you ask for those things and you get them with the wrong intentions. So you have to keep your intentions clear no matter what, because if you don't keep your intentions clear and you don't have the right means to the things that you're getting, then there may be a better chance of you getting something else if you had those right intentions. Anyway, with that being said, like I said, this is a pretty on shoot episode. This is very, very off script. The thing to understand is that when you're faced with temptation as a leader, you first got to understand what that temptation is. You got to understand why you're being enticed by this stuff. Why are you being enticed by more money? Why are you being enticed by more influence? Why are you being enticed by somebody that you're attracted to that you know you shouldn't be with? Why are you more enticed by power itself? Why do you want this stuff? And then secondly, you have to check after that, understanding why you want these things. You have to understand, what is it about that other person that you desire it from them? Is it because you think that person is better to you in some extent? Do you think that person is smarter to you? Do you think they're more influential to you? Do you think they're more gifted than you are? You have to understand where that strife is at in regards to that person. And another thing to understand, even though it's a little off topic, you got to understand that even in the temptation of stuff, that some people just have things that you don't have, but that doesn't make them better to you. That simply makes them different. The same thing applies to yourself, because there are gifts and talents and stuff that God has blessed you with that nobody else has. And it's not that you can't attain the same stuff that they have, or you can't attain the same degree of success that they may have, or exceed their degree of success. But you have to understand that you may have a different route of getting there. It's just like things in life. We may not always take the same path to get to our careers, but at the end of the day, we still get to the same destination. We still get to the same career spot. We may not have the same journeys when it comes to us being successful in business, but we still get to that place in business through a different path. Even when our spiritual growth, we may not come to the same understanding of who God is and the things that he wants for us and he wants us to do, but we still get there through our each individual paths. Your goal is going to be unique. Your life is going to be unique. And as long as you keep envying and desiring what other people have and desiring to be more like them so that you can receive that stuff, you're not going to get where you want to be, because that's not the path that God wants to take you down. He wants to take you down your own path so that you can have your own journey and your own story. He's taking you down that path so you can not only appreciate him for the God that he is, but you can appreciate yourself for the way that he has created you to be. As David says in the Bible, you were fearfully and wonderfully made. There's no one like you on this earth. And God wants you to appreciate that about yourself. And he wants you to appreciate him for the way that he made you to become. Moving on, the last thing that you have to understand, once again, is your intention. You have to understand, why do you even want these things in the first place? And that even goes back to what I've been saying this entire time about temptation. Do you really want these things because these are things that are going to further you down your journey? Do you really need this money so that it can further your desires with your business or the stuff that God has placed on your heart? Do you want more influence because by empowering other people, you're going to be able to inspire more people in the future and make a larger impact? Or do you just want more people to be around so that you can order them to go each and everywhere you want, so that they can help you become a better person, so they can help you feel like you're more worthy of the things that you're doing, so that they can help you grow your $1 million or $1 billion empire while they stay where they're at? You got to check your intentions. And then last but not least, you got to understand, why do you want more power as a whole? Why do you even want this stuff in the first place? Why do you want to deal with the person that you're dealing with? Why do you want to build relationships with the people that you know is not good for you? You have to be able to be in a place to understand, what's the source of this reason? What's the source of this temptation? And I'm telling you, by doing that and understanding where that is, you can fully submit to God, because you can go under his influence, as it mentioned in James chapter 7, by submitting to him. And by doing that, you'll be able to resist the devil. You'll be able to withstand the things that he's tempting you with. You'll be able to withstand the money and the power and the other person that you ain't supposed to be with away. You'll be able to resist all of that stuff and stay away from that and stay on the path that is going. And when you do that, he has no choice but to flee from you. He has no choice but to run for you, because he doesn't have a leg to stand on. Even if you're enticed by the stuff, if you don't give into it, there's nothing else he can do. Only thing he can do is run away and then come back at a later time with something else that you might like. And that is leading into an entirely different episode. But to sum this particular point up once again, understand why you're doing these things. What is your intention behind receiving it? And I'm telling you that if it's really a good cause, if it's something that you really know that you need in order to get further in life and the stuff that you're doing, and it really is something to make an impact instead of it serving your own selfish will and desires and the stuff that you want to do, God will make sure that you receive that thing in due time. I'm telling you, and it may not come right now. It may not come today or tomorrow, but be sure and take confidence in the fact that God will send it when you need that thing to come. All right. With that being said, though, that concludes this episode. As I mentioned before, this is completely off script. This is just something that I was just kind of thinking about and decided to put the camera and the microphone up so that I could give this to each and one of you. But if you made it this far, I appreciate you for tuning in. I truly hope you got something out of this. And as always, be sure to look forward to more content coming soon. I love each and every one of you. I pray you all have a good night, and y'all take care. All right. My name is Brian Boyd. Take care, y'all. Peace. Hey everyone, Brian here once again. Thank you so much for tuning in to Grounded. If these messages have been a blessing to you, please consider donating at thegroundedpodcast.com/donate. Furthermore, if you're looking for books and journals and other resources that will help improve your life, business, and relationships, please be sure to check those out at thegroundedpodcast.com/store. As always, it's been a blessing. I truly love each and every one of you, and I truly hope to see you all once again very soon. All right.